started, thank you for coming here to hear Yance's presentation. Yance is the son of Mike and Mary Jane Garner of Broken Bow, Nebraska, and is a 2020 graduate of Broken Bow High School. He is a 7 to 12 social sciences education major, and while at Wayne State College, he's kept very busy as serving in a variety of leadership roles, including co-president of Crude Campus Ministry, vice president of Pi Gamma Bu, the Social Sciences Honor Society, treasurer of Legal Minds. He's also a member of Phi Alpha Theta, the National History Honorary, and Phi Kappa Phi Honor Society, and he is a participant in Wayne State College's Rule of Law Opportunities Program. He will graduate in May 2024 after completing his student teaching and is planning on pursuing a legal career in education law. Yance is a wonderful student. He's always thoughtful and very dutiful. He is present and asks challenging questions in the classroom. It is a real compliment. So here we get to hear Yance's presentation, Christian Responses During the Era of Nazi Germany, 1933 to 1945. Take it away.
Thank you. So like Dr. Fox said, my topic is Christian responses during the era of Nazi Germany from 1933 to 1945. So background on my honors project. The topic that my honors project discusses, of course, is Christian responses during the era of Nazi Germany from 1933 to 1945. The research question that it addresses how did Christian leaders, both Protestant and Catholic leaders, respond to the rise of Nazism, the government of Nazi Germany, and the policies of Nazi Germany. So the sources that I evaluated were both primary and secondary sources, with being able to evaluate letters and declaration for the Protestant responses. A major source of evidence for the Catholic responses were David Kurtzer's book about Popes Pius XI and Pius XII. Some of the letters that I used for Protestant responses include personal correspondence of Dietrich Bonhoeffer, which we'll talk about later, and declarations made by confessing church leaders, such as Bartman Declaration or the Stuttgart Declaration of Guilt. The books by David Kurtzer were The Pope and Mussolini, The Secret History of Pius XI, and the Rise of Fascism in Europe. And the second book was The Pope at War, The Secret History of Pius XII, Mussolini, and Hitler. Kurtzer's writings were important in the subject area, as his books are written using evidence directly from the Vatican archives and among the leading experts in the area of history of Pope Pius XI and Pius XII. Fascism was first created by Benito Mussolini, an Italian World War I veteran and a former socialist. Mussolini led a group of veterans, anti-communists, and anyone else that fit that type of mold. Mussolini had a violent political philosophy that included ultranationalist Italian dominance, dominating political opponents through violence, and Mussolini would basically bully people into either leaving him alone or joining his side. Mussolini eventually came to power, and in his first speech to the Italian parliament is documented by Kurtzer's book about Pius XI. He stated that fascism would help restore a Christian society and create a Catholic state befitting a Catholic nation. This helped establish the ties between fascism and Catholicism within a fascist state. So Adolf Hitler, another World War I veteran, wanted his own version of Mussolini's fascism in Germany. Hitler had a failed attempt to gain power at the Beer-Hall Push, and he was arrested afterwards. While in prison, he wrote Mein Kampf, which was able to help rally more people to the Nazi side. Eventually, Hitler was able to gain enough traction that his Nazi party was able to gain power in Germany in 1933. After gaining power, Hitler and the Nazi government began the Reign of Terror. After Nazis came to power, they were then able to also start to exercise their power over the Catholic and Protestant churches in Germany. These were through Point 24, the Nazi party platform that stated, "We demand freedom for all religious denominations in the state, provided they do not threaten its race, its existence, nor offend the moral feelings of the German race." Point 24 was an upfront policy that the Nazis put out towards Germany and the wider world as well. But the erring paragraph was a policy that more accurately represented what the Nazis wanted the churches to do. It is important to note that in Point 24, it also addressed addresses Judaism by saying that the Nazi Party combats the Jewish materialist spirit, something that they weren't afraid to put up front. In 1933, after coming to office, Hitler and his government passed a law for the restoration of professional civil service, or the Aryan paragraph, that removed people from civil service that could not prove Aryan ancestry or were deemed opponents of the Nazi regime. Pastors and church officials during this time in Germany were technically considered civil servants, but it wasn't initially forced heavily in the churches, but churches still had to decide whether or not they wanted to adopt this policy, which could cause a rift in their congregations. So to start off first with different leaders, we will talk about Pope Pius XI. He was the Pope at the time that Hitler was elected to office in 1933. Pius XI was initially skeptical of Hitler, but he soon changed his attitude due to their mutual distrust of communism. German ambassador to the Holy See reported that Hitler wanted to have good relations with the Vatican. Pius XI wanted to protect Catholics and Catholic assets in Germany. Pius XI did this through signing the Concordat in 1933, giving rights to bishops and Catholic assets in Germany. The relationship, Hitler, however, started to go against the Catholic Church within Germany. Hitler started to enact more power over Catholic schools and began the forced sterilization of people that the Nazis deemed defective, angering Pius XI. And of course, their relationship would soon start to sour even further. During this time, Hitler started to initiate his early stages of his plan to eradicate the Jewish people. It's important to note that according to Kurtzer's book, in these very, very early stages, it was more Mussolini than Pius XI that was speaking out against it, but soon that would change with Pius XI speaking out more against it, and Mussolini would slowly just going along with it more. Pius XI also started to confront the Nazis more. He began viewing the Nazis as a threat to the Catholic Church. In 1936, he was angry at the Nazis due to the decreasing percentage of students attending Catholic schools in Germany, Nazi Germany conducting trials against priests, which some of them included trials accusing the priest of sexual immorality, and some of these were possibly true, some of them were also possibly false, but either way, it angered Pius XI through the trials. And he was also angered at the fact that Hitler and the Nazi Party started becoming more deified within the German society. Pius XI was going to denounce the racism in Germany and Italy in 1939, but before he could do so, he passed away. His speech was confiscated and discarded by Cardinal Pacelli, the Pius XI's Secretary of State. Cardinal Pacelli would then succeed Pius XI, becoming Pius XII, taking the name Pius XII in honor of his predecessor. Upon his ascension to the papacy, Hitler did in fact congratulate him, but soon after, Hitler invaded Czechoslovakia, but Pius XII responded with, he, the Pope, sees no reason to interfere in the historic process in which, from the political point of view, the Church is not interested. One of the reasons that Pius XII did not outright condemn this is, just like Pius XI, he also did not like communism. He viewed communism as the main threat to the Catholic Church. On September 1st, 1939, Nazi Germany invaded Poland, starting World War II. During the invasion of Poland, Catholic priests and people were being arrested and were being killed, in which Pius XI did not really do a whole lot, except for offering his condolences by saying, the blood of countless human beings, non-combatants among them, has been shed and cries out to the heaven, especially the blood of Poland, a nation very dear to us. He called Poland a nation very dear to him due to the high percentage of Catholics in the world. In June 1941, Hitler and Germany invaded the Soviet Union, which pleased Pius XII due to not liking communism and Germany finally fighting against the communist threat that Pius XII and Pius XI long saw. Catholic leaders in Germany did their best to protect Catholics with Jewish ancestry during this time. However, they did their best, but they were still rather helpless against the entire Nazi persecutions against the Jewish race, or Jewish people. After the war had ended, Pius XII gave a speech where he denounced Nazi doctrine and that working with Nazi Germany was sometimes a necessary evil. In this speech, Pius XII did not mention anything about the extermination of the Jews. He believed that his actions were in the best interest for keeping the Catholic Church functioning, and he also believed that communism was still the main threat to Catholicism. Some other notable anti-Nazi Catholics in Germany that did resist Nazi Germany differently than Pius XII. I kid you not, this is his name. He's Bishop of Berlin, Johann Conrad Maria Augustus Felix Graf von Preußen Lichtenstein Moose. Kid you not, that is his name. And the Bishop of Münster, Clemens August Graf von Galen. It is important to note that both of them were Grafs, which are basically the German version of counts. So they're both from they're both elite people in Germany. I can't pronounce that word. So von Preußen, he strongly opposed the Nazis and spoke out against Nazi atrocities. Von Galen was also very outspoken against the Nazis and their policies of euthanasia, so much so that if Nazis would have won the war, he would surely have been executed in post-war Germany. And lastly, another famous Catholic lay person, which a lay person is basically just a normal person. They're not a monk, not a priest. But it was Oskar Schindler, who saved over 1,000 Jews and was honored as righteous among nations by Yad Vashem after the war, which is a very notable thing to have accomplished. Some Catholics in favor of Nazism, though, include Konrad Gruber and Franz Josef Rolkowski. Gruber was a leading Nazi sympathizer among German bishops. He did protest the euthanasia program the Nazis set up, and he did denounce the Holocaust for being morally unjustifiable, but that was on May 8, 1945, after the war had ended, and there's no possible repercussions that could happen against him. Gruber also did not protect Catholics in his diocese very well from Nazi persecutions. Rolkowski was the German field bishop of the German army, with being fully separate from other German bishops in Germany due to him being in the military. He was also very militaristic and nationalistic, and he viewed World War II as being morally right, which fit right in with the rest of the Nazis. Rolkowski believed Nazi Germany to be the savior of Europe and ended up becoming a disgrace to the Catholic Church, according to Vincent Lapamarda's book about the Catholic bishops in Europe. So moving on to the Protestant responses. The Confessing Church. The Protestant Church in Germany was different when compared to the Catholic Church due to the lacking of a pope-like head figure. The creation of the law for the restoration of professional civil service did create issues within the Protestant Church. For example, the General Synod of the Protestant Church of the Old Prussian Union, the largest church in Germany, adopted the measure. This created the German Christian movement, in which combined Christianity with Nazi racial ideology. In response, Martin E. Molen established the Pastors' Emergency League in response. Martin Luther then established the Confessing Church after establishing the Pastors' Emergency League. Niemöller used the declaration of the Second Confessing Synod of the German Protestant Church in Berlin-Dahlem to help establish the Confessing Church. Niemöller in his declaration stated that the constitution of the German Evangelical Church has been destroyed, and that Christians should listen to the Confessional Synod of the German Evangelical Church. This is the beginning of the Confessing Church in Germany. Some other notable Christian leaders that responded against Nazi Germany are Karl Barth and Heinrich Gruber. Karl Barth, a Swiss theologian, wrote the Barmen Declaration in May 1934. They outlined the Confessing Church's statements of faith and showed a united front against the Nazi regime, uniting both Lutheran Protestants in Germany and also Reformed Protestants in Germany. Heinrich Gruber established Pastor Gruber's office to help non-erring Protestants and Protestants of Jewish descent. He established this office after Germany annexed Austria during the Anschluss. purpose was to get non-Aryan Protestants and Protestants of Jewish descent, both considered undesirable by Nazi Germany, out of the country to escape persecution. Gruber was eventually arrested in 1940, and he spent the rest of the war in a rotation of different concentration camps. Gruber drew on these experiences during an interview with Studs Terkel in 1968. I think that every silence is a guilt, in concentration camp and freedom. And if we are in freedom, we have more possibility to speak. But as that is my opinion, since the witness of creed and love is more important than our personal life. In the camp, Gruber witnessed Nazis killing Jews and Russian prisoners of war. Even though he was in prison, and even though he had established an office that helped Protestants escape Germany, he still believed he could have done more to resist against Nazi Germany. Dietrich Bonhoeffer is one of the more famous confessing church members due to his involvement with the German intelligence agency, the Abwehr. Bonhoeffer, in a letter in late 1933, reminded Martin Niemöller to be radical on every point, and that includes the Aryan clause, which of course is just the Aryan paragraph. Bonhoeffer also shared correspondence with Karl Barth about resisting Germany during this time as well. Bonhoeffer believed the Jewish people were a religion, not a race. He believed that according to the Bible, the Jewish people are a religion, not as a race, due to a man can thus become a Jew by taking the law upon himself, but no one can become a Jew by race. This counteracted what the Nazi ideology said, with the Jewish people being an entire race and wanting to exterminate that entire race. Bonhoeffer also kept the confessing churches accountable, writing to them in 1937 and 1938. Bonhoeffer was also connected to the resistance against Nazi Germany and the July 20th plot to assassinate Hitler. Bonhoeffer was eventually arrested by the Gestapo and was eventually court-martialed from the Abwehr and executed on April 9th, 1945, due to his connections to the resistance against Nazi Germany and the plot to kill Hitler. Another notable thing about Bonhoeffer is due to him being connected with both the resistance and the confessing church. When he was executed, he became a martyr for both of them, which is another reason why he is often one of the first people that is mentioned when you say the confessing church. Protestants in favor of Nazi. Martin Luther was used as a form of propaganda by the Nazis. This propaganda poster from 1933 says Hitler's fight and Luther's teaching are the best defense for the German people. Martin Luther was, of course, the founder of the Protestant Reformation. He was native German, with his theology eventually taking over Germany after the Reformation. Nazis hoped using him as a propaganda tool would help give the German Christian movement some credibility. The German Christian movement did benefit from propaganda like this. The German Christian movement wanted to blend church doctrines and the Nazi racial theory, and would eventually grow into the German Protestant Church, and this would later be called the Bracket Church. One of the church's beliefs was to abolish the Old Testament due to the Old Testament talking about Judaism. Hitler wanted all Protestants to unite in the Bracket Church, and he wanted to use this to help establish control over the church in his pursuit of domination, basically. Some notable Protestants in favor of Nazism included Ludwig Müller, Hans Carroll, and Hermann Muse. Ludwig Müller was the founder and leader of the German Christian movement and a proponent of blending Christianity and the Nazi racial theory. Müller would eventually lose influence in Germany with the creation of the Ministry of Ecclesiastical Affairs led by Hans Carroll. Müller, though, however, did remain committed to Nazism and ended up committing suicide in 1945 after the war ended. Hans Carroll's job was to bridge the differences between the German Evangelical Church and the Nazi Party, but due to the influences of Heinrich Himmler and Martin Bormann, who were both proponents against religion, Carroll's office was eventually lost power. Carroll would die in 1941 due to natural causes, and was replaced by Hermann Muse, who sported the look of the time, and for the rest of the war, leading a ministry in the government that had almost zero power. After the war had ended, Martin Niemöller helped lead a council created after to draft a declaration of guilt in 1945. The council was called the Council of the Protestant Church in Germany. Very creative. Niemöller, while arguing for the declaration, said it is not enough to give the Nazis responsibility. It is also necessary for the church to admit its responsibility. The Stuttgart Declaration of Guilt asks the wider church in Europe and the world to forgive the churches in Germany for their mistakes and not standing to our beliefs more courageously. The declaration hoped to establish a new start in post-war Germany and emphasize the regret that the church did have for not doing more against Nazi Germany. Martin Niemöller and Heinrich Gruber both wished they could have done more to speak out against the Nazis, even though they already had done quite a bit. When the Nazis first came to power, most Christian leaders did not know what to think of the Nazis, with some of them agreeing and adopting their policies, but others opposed them shortly after coming to power, with others slowly opposing the Nazis more and more as the war progressed. Christian responses to the Nazi era were varied, and using the mindset of a Christian leader during that time is understandable why some opposed the Nazis, some tolerated the Nazis, and some cooperated with the Nazis. Because you have to keep in mind that during this time when the Nazis initially came to power, they did not know what would eventually happen. They did not know how history would perceive them. They did not know that the Nazis would have been as bad as they were. Some of them thought they were just a political trend that would go away. Some of them thought were more scared of more scared of communism than they were of Nazism. But in the end, they still responded to Nazi Germany in the way that they felt and they were convicted of it. This scratched the surface of the Christian responses during the Nazi era, but is an overall summary of what happened. There are countless others involved in resisting against Nazi Germany and cooperating with Nazi Germany that I did not mention. They all, however, helped shape how the Christian responses during the era of Nazi Germany responded. Any questions?